Hi everyone and welcome to our DreamSpace HomeSpace episode, another episode on MakeCode Arcade. My name is Amanda and joining me today is Corey.
Hi everyone.
And we've already done obviously a couple of weeks of arcade. We've done 4 weeks. This is lesson 5. And we're going to be delving into a brand new game today. So if you joined us from lessons 1 to 4 in arcade, you would have seen we built a game from the beginning and we added different features to it each week. And we're going to do that again today, so to speak. We're going to start a brand new game and we're going to add now as each week progresses. But we're also going to be introducing a lot of new coding terminologies and new coding concepts too. So as usual, there might be lots of questions. So we have our team in the background as well. We have Niamh and Kaylin and Richard who are there in the Q&A section if you have any questions to pop in and hopefully help you through. And as always, also feel free to pause at any point, because like other episodes, we are going to be doing quite a lot in one episode with a lot of new features, as well as going back over some things we've done already. Now I'm going to hop straight into it. We're going to get straight into our browser to our arcade website. So I'm going to hop in here now. And remember, when we're in our browser, we're going to arcade.makecode.com. So that's our website. You've probably got it ready to go at this stage, arcade.makecode.com. So we're going to go in there. And in the other episodes we did, as we built on our game each week, what we actually ended up doing was, if you remember, importing sometimes kind of where we got to with our game the week before, so we could pick up where we left off. We're obviously starting from a brand new game today, so we're not going to import anything. We're going to hop straight in and create a new project. So I'm going to create a new project, and I'm just going to call this one, very inventively, Webinar 5. Create that and we're good to go, and we know it's going to be saving as we go now. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, hopefully help you see a bit better. Okay, so we're kind of, if you've joined us now from this lesson, and maybe you didn't do lessons 1 to 4, you can obviously go back and watch them, but we are going to go from the beginning of a game here. And it would be useful for you to review the previous lessons though, even after this one, but you should be able to go with us from today either. And those of you coming back, then you're very used to the interface of, we have our simulator on the screen, we have our categories, and then we have our area here, our workspace, where we're going to do our code. So we're starting a brand new game, and if you remember, when we start a game, the first thing we do is we set the scene for what the game is going to kind of look like in the background. So over in our categories, we have our scene area. So we're going to hop in here. And there's a couple of options here in terms of how we can set the background or the scene. I'm going to go with the color this time. So we've used image before. This time we're going to go with color. So if you go into scene and get your set background color to block, bring that in. And we're going to do this straight away when our game starts. So on start, set background color to. I'm going to click on my empty area here to select the color I want, and I have a color palette to choose from. I'm going to go with a nice kind of sky blue. Okay, so, and you can see my simulator over here is showing me that. Okay, I think, did I drop off there, Corey? Could you see me for that part?
Yeah, no, I could see your screen. You were just off camera for a second, but you're back.
Okay, perfect. Just checking I haven't lost anyone. Brilliant. Okay, so we've set background color to blue. Perfect. Now, the other thing we want to do is to create our sprite. So as you know, we need to create a sprite. The first one we probably should do is our player. So create our player sprite and then decide how that's going to work. So we're going to hop into sprites. And again, you're probably familiar with this at this point. We're going to set our sprite. So we're going to grab this one and pop that underneath. Now, remember, a sprite is a variable, so we can create lots of these variables and we can use them then throughout our game. We are going to rename this variable. We don't want it to be called my sprite. And myself and Corey had a discussion about this. So Corey, what did we say we're going to name our sprite?
Bubbles.
Bubbles. We went with bubbles. Trying to think of something. We thought we were being inventive, maybe not. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so Bubbles is our sprite. And we have to now decide what we want Bubbles to look like. So we click into our area here. And again, you guys can feel free to create your own sprite, remember, and obviously feel free to pause and do that. I'm going to go into the gallery and I'm going to select. Now, what's really, really important here is that we all kind of do the same thing, because we're going to be getting our sprite to face a certain direction. And that's important that we all do the same direction, so that when we add to our code together, we're kind of doing the same instructions. Because, for example, if I decide that my sprite is going to be facing to the right hand side of the screen, so looking that way, then, and we're going to be coding around that when we're talking about the axis and stuff. So it should be important that we do the same one. So if you look in the gallery, I don't want you to just pick any sprite. I want you to pick some sort of a sprite that's facing a certain way. And we're going to pick the sprite. I'm going to pick this princess one, and I'm making sure that the princess is actually facing the right-hand side of the screen. So if you're picking a sprite, can you make sure they do that too, please? Or if you're creating one yourself, make sure they're facing that way, because it'll be important for later on. So I'm going to click on the princess, and I'm going to click on done. So I've set bubbles to be this type of sprite, and the kind is player, and that's perfect. So this is our player sprite, so we're going to leave that as is. Okay, the next thing we want to do is create our tile map that Bubbles is going to be navigating across. So our tile map is, we looked at these in kind of the last few lessons, and they're really important. We're going to add to them a bit today. So if you remember, Corey, where do I normally find my tile maps area?
You usually find them in scene.
Perfect. So I'm going to go into scene, and we are going to go down until we see our tiles area, and we have set tile map 2. So I'm going to grab that one, bring that out, and pop that underneath. Okay. Now, obviously, again, it's empty at the moment. We need to create and add to it. So I'm going to click on that. And automatically, remember, your tile map is set to be 16 by 16, but we want our game to be a bit different now. We want to actually go kind of the length. We want to keep going across for quite a while. Corey, any ideas what numbers I could switch this up to maybe?
I'd go with maybe like 50 across.
Yeah, so width here is 50. Let's try that one. 50 by 16.
Yeah, see what it looks like.
And then click out here to see. Yeah, okay, yeah. And I just zoomed out a bit so you can see that. There we go. So you can see it's quite long now. So I've changed 50 by 16. So again, guys, please pause because we're going quite fast here, and we're going to keep going at this kind of pace. So make sure to pause if you need to do anything here, okay? So 50 by 16 is kind of now our display image, okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to have Bubbles kind of go along kind of platforms of grass, so to speak. And we're going to build out that tile ourselves. So if you remember, there is a gallery here, but we want to actually build that tile. So I'm going to go into my tiles, and I'm going to create a new tile. So I'm going to hit this plus icon, and we're going to go, I'm going to get green. I'm going to kind of put kind of green grass on the top, say. So I'm going to do a line, and then it's really handy because we can just fill that in. And then underneath the green grass, we'll do the soil. So we might go brown. Okay, and then that's kind of, I want to kind of add a little bit to that maybe. So I'm going to grab my pencil and my green, and I'm going to add maybe kind of a little bit of more green underneath, little bits, kind of add a little bit more of a feature to it. So you guys can be designing your tile too. Okay, it's kind of like roots nearly I have underneath. I think Corey added some nice little dots as well, didn't you, Corey, around?
Yeah, some little stones.
Very therapeutic, actually. It's like coloring.
It is. Okay. This is my favorite part.
So this is my new tile I've created. I'm going to click on done. And I can see there it is. Brilliant. Okay, now I'm going to grab that tile. So I'm going to click on it so it comes up here, my pencil. And I'm going to now build where I want my sprite or my player to be moving along. So I'm going to go kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 down, Corey. What do you think? 6, 5 or 6?
Yeah, 5 or 6. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, 6 looks good.
6 here. Yeah. So I'm going to go across. Okay. And obviously this is kind of, we're going to try and begin kind of around here with Bubbles. Now, what we want to do basically with our player is that Bubbles will be going across here and then like jumping onto other parts. So we will only be able to jump around one block. So we don't want to leave too much of a gap. Bubbles is not going to make it, okay? So we need to leave only one gap. So if I wanted Bubbles to jump there, I would just leave that much of a gap. So we'll see one kind of area there. But we can also jump upwards. So we can see, can we get Bubbles to jump up one gap there? Maybe go along. Might go up another level. Maybe along there. Oh, need to get rid of that one. Okay, go back. And then maybe come down a level. Now that would be probably too much too. So we're going to just go along basically.
Looks good so far.
Yeah, and then this is kind of our end area now. Just make sure I've got them all, have I? Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so this is the end. So basically what's going to happen, everyone at home, is Bubbles is going to start here and have to kind of fly along, jump, 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 so on till they get to the end, okay? So we want to include in our tile map some sort of an end goal. So I'm going to hop into my gallery and I'm going to, now it's up to you guys, I'm going to use this kind of tree as my end goal. So I'm going to grab the tree. I'm just going to put the tree there. So basically Bubbles is going to start here and have to go all the way along until they get to the end goal, which is the tree at the end. Does that look okay, Corey?
Yeah, that looks very good.
Okay, perfect. Now, so we've one more thing to add to our tile map. Now remember to pause, please, if you need to add stuff. I'm sure you've loads to do. The tiles can take a little bit of practice and playing around for a little while. So definitely pause and come back when you're good to go. So we have done our kind of basic map up here. But what we want to do now is kind of put an area, obviously Bubbles is going to be moving along. The gaps kind of make it more like a game. It's a little bit harder, obviously, with the gaps that Bubbles has to go through. So Corey, what do you think? We should probably have something down here maybe that traps Bubbles if she falls through the gap or something.
Yeah, very good idea. Something there that kind of says like, oh, you're trapped, game over, like you can't get out of it or something.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'll do is I'm going to make a tile for that one as well. I'm going to go to my plus again, and I'm going to make this tile fully white, and I'm going to just do it kind of like bars, as if Bubbles gets trapped behind this fence and she can't get out. And yeah, exactly, Corey, the game is kind of over then really if that happens. So I'm going to go, actually I'll just do lines, it's probably easier. So I'm going to just do kind of some black lines down. Sorry now, making a little mistake here. Oh, not cooperating.
I know, that one always gets me as well.
Yeah. Where we go? We go here. We'll go here. Oh. Why is that one not filling in for me? That's not cooperating. Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. All right. So they're going down, and then we'll just maybe just, what do you think, Corey? Just do 2 across, maybe?
Yeah, 2 across will be fine.
Just for speed, kind of real quick. So Bubbles gets trapped behind this kind of fence area. Done. So that's my new tile. Yeah, happy enough, Corey?
Yep, very happy.
Okay, so we have that fence. I've clicked on that now. So I'm selecting this new tile I've just made, and I'm going to basically do lots of them down the bottom here, so that if Bubbles falls through the gap, she's trapped in the fence. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm just going to use my fill. Oh, no, undo that. Where's my undo, Corey, gone? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
That's weird. Did I miss it? Aha.
Look.
I was thinking. Okay. I missed a spot. So yeah, by the way, guys, because we've made this so long, your zoom in and out might be handy for this, because you can kind of, like I did there, you might zoom in and you're actually missing the end part. Okay. Now, perfect. Okay, so really quick recap over what this tile map is going to do. We're going to get Bubbles to start here, have to go and navigate all the way along. The idea is that Bubbles gets to the end goal, which is the tree. But if Bubbles falls through here, then it's going to be game over because she's trapped. Okay, so I'm going to click on done to save my tile map. It was disappeared, has it?
Yeah, I think it disappeared. Maybe just run in and do one real quickly, because I think everyone at home probably had theirs done.
Yeah, I'd say I have the tiles here anyway, don't I? No. That is not, they're not cooperating with me. Okay.
No.
Really, really quick. I might
Even just do a green, just even do a green across or something, see with the flowers or something, because everyone at home probably has theirs done.
Yeah, real quick, what I'll do is I'll change this again to 50. I think this happened once in my little run through as well, Corey, didn't it?
Yeah, and you know what I actually think it is, because it happened to me. You know when you pressed undo there, did you press Control and Z?
Yeah.
First? Yeah, so I think when you press Control and Z, it actually undoes the code, whereas if you press undo, it undoes the thing that you wanted to undo. That happened to me, I think, 3 times before I figured it out.
No problem. Look, I'll do this way, and I'm going to really quickly just add these in, but you saw what I did originally. So we can just say this is our end goal, and we might just select, might just select seaweed or something, what you think, as the area that bubbles might fall into.
Looks good.
Okay, let's see. Everyone fingers crossed when I click done here.
Woo!
Okay. Oh, actually, sorry. Do you know what I'm after doing? I'm after probably putting that a little bit too low, Corey. So I'll just move it.
Yes. Remember we said
move them
down.
Yeah, they need to be a little bit. So what did we do earlier? We did kind of 6 down, was it?
Yeah, go 5 down just to be safe.
Yeah. Okay. God, all the editing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, we'll go there. We might just get Bubbles to drop down a few levels to begin with. Yeah. So Corey, when Corey takes over, she has the much better looking game than me. Okay, right. Okay, perfect. So we have our background color, we have our tile map, we have bubbles on the screen, we're good. Now, we want to obviously have to move bubbles around the screen. So, Corey, what are you thinking? What when we were moving our player before, what did we normally do?
We normally went into controller, wasn't it?
Perfect, yeah. So if we go into controller, we could say move our sprite with buttons, which was really handy. So we're going to grab that one. Drop that underneath, and remember we're used to this idea that the variable is incorrect, so we need to change that to bubbles. And we're saying move bubbles with buttons. Now, what's really important to highlight here is with this game, we don't want bubbles, we don't use the controller up and down, okay? Because part of our game will be getting bubbles to jump, and obviously that defeats the purpose if we can use up and down on our controller. So we just want bubbles to move across the screen, okay? So I'm going to hit on the plus, and it's with buttons VX and VY. So remember that was velocity, or so the speed that bubbles moves in a certain direction. And we only want bubbles to move across, which was the X axis, if you remember. So we're going to leave the X as is, and we're going to actually change VY to 0, because we don't want to be able to move bubbles up or down with those controller buttons. We just want the left and right to be working, okay? So I'm going to change that one to 0. So again, pause if you need to catch up on that part, okay? Perfect. And then the other thing is, let's just check actually that works. That should be a good idea. So we'll refresh our simulator here, and let me just check. Yeah, looks good. And if I hit up and if I hit down, yeah, no, so we're good. That's exactly what we want to happen, okay? So that's fine. What I want to also do at the start of the game is I want bubbles to kind of fall into the game. So Corey, do you know at the beginning, instead of bubbles just being there, I want bubbles to kind of drop into the screen, and then we actually take off in the game. Yeah. What do you think? Yeah. So
I don't know. Will we have a look in Sprites and see if there's that in there?
Yeah. Okay. So let's go into Sprites. Okay, now obviously this is all to do with the sprites, kind of where the sprite is going to be on the screen. We want them to fall in. There's a block here that says set my sprite. It says X, but there's an arrow. So that means you have a couple of options to play around with. So we're going to grab that one, and we're going to drop that in up here, okay? Now again, we're changing this to bubbles. So we're setting bubbles to, now I'm going to go into X, which is really important. Hit that arrow for me. And what we want to do is kind of, over time, we want bubbles to land into the screen. So something that moves with speed over time is actually called acceleration. And we have the option to have the acceleration come in across or to come down. So Corey, what are we thinking?
Down, definitely.
Down, I think so. So we're going to go with AY. So we're setting bubbles to fall down onto the screen. And we're going to change this to, we'll try out 200. Let's try that and let's watch our screen and see what happens. Oh, okay. So we knew that was going to happen, don't worry. So what happened is it worked. It's done exactly what we programmed it to do. Bubbles has fallen down into the screen with acceleration, which is exactly what we want. What we do not want is for bubbles to fall through our tile map. So that platform that we set out earlier that I was saying I want bubbles to move along, that needs to be set up to be something we call a wall. So it needs to actually stop bubbles from falling through like just happened there. So we're gonna, to do that, we're gonna have to hop back into our tile map. So back into our tile map. And in our tile map, there is a thing here it says draw walls. It looks like a wall actually. And we're going to use that. And again, when you just see what I do here, you can pause and do this yourself on your own tile map. So I'm going to click on that and you'll notice it's kind of a red at my cursor now. And I'm going to just basically mark out the area I want to act like a wall, which is basically all the different platform levels that I've just selected. Oh, there's a big gap there. I'm going to have to fill that one in actually in a second. Sorry, now, real quick. No way will bubbles make that jump. Okay, back in, fill that in. So if you see that it's not red, so see there, for example, I missed that one. So then go back and fill it in because all of the platforms that you're after building need to act like a wall so that bubbles doesn't fall through, okay, or your sprite doesn't fall through. Okay, and okay, good. So we're going to be moving all the way along. I'm just going to delete, I got a little extra one there by accident. We're going to be moving all the way along and these are all highlighted. So let's test that. I'm going to click done and let's watch my game now. Okay, brilliant. So I'll just refresh there real quick again. So you can see bubbles kind of slightly lands down into it and then we're going to be good to go. Okay, perfect. So Corey, that's all good. So we can move left. Our bubbles is landing on our platform. We can move left and right. But what we want to be doing now is if I move left, let's watch. Gone, right? So bubbles has just disappeared off the screen. So what we need to do is make sure that our camera follows bubbles or your player as they move on the screen. So we encountered this one before, Corey, as well, didn't we?
Yeah, in our shark game.
In our shark game, yeah. So again, you might need to pause when you see what we do here. We're going to go into scene. And there's a way of getting our camera to follow our player. So if we go into scene, down towards the bottom, there is a camera category. And we have camera follow sprite, which is going to be exactly what we wanted to do. So I'm going to grab that one. And again, when the game starts, we're going to tell the game, follow, again, not my sprite, bubbles. And now let's check, see how we get on this time. So we're going to go across. Okay, there we go. Lovely, happy out. Now, problem here. I can't go up. Remember, I hit up, not working. I have to somehow get from where I am now on the platform across to the other platform. So what am I going to need to do, Corey?
You're going to need to jump.
I'm going to need to jump, yeah. So to do that, we're going to use one of our controller buttons. Kind of makes sense. So we're going to go into our controller and I'm going to select on button A. So on A button pressed. So we're going to get that one. So when I press A, I want bubbles to jump. Okay. Now, we're going to just do that by basically using our velocity again. So again, speed in a given direction. So we're going to go into sprites. And we're going to set this, when we hit A, we're going to set bubbles to move in a certain velocity. Now again, we're going to use this one and we're going to change using our arrow here. So I'm going to grab that one, put that in on button A pressed, okay? Change this to bubbles, we're used to this now. And go down to here with our arrow, click on X. And Corey, we're talking about velocity this time, aren't we, instead of acceleration?
Exactly.
And Corey, we're talking about velocity in terms of, you know, speed in a direction up and down, really, isn't it? Because we're jumping, yeah. So it should be up and down. Yeah. So in that way, we need the y-axis, don't we? So yeah. We're going to do Vy, velocity in y, okay? Okay, perfect. Now, this is a little bit confusing in that it's the opposite. You might remember from before, this is the opposite of maths class. So in maths, when you do your y-axis, your positive numbers are kind of upwards, okay? It's the opposite, it's inverted in game design, okay? So, or in this game, in arcade game design. So we're gonna actually, to go up, we're gonna use a minus number, all right? So I'm gonna hit change 0 to minus 100, okay? Now, so let's just test, does this work? Okay, brilliant. That's perfect. Now the only thing is, I can keep hitting A. See that, Corey?
Yeah.
And I can keep flying up, which isn't ideal. Again, that's not what we want. We want bubbles to only have the opportunity to jump up once. And once they're jumping in the air, they have to come back down before they can jump again. Okay, kind of like if you think about it in another game similar to this. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to set a condition. So if you want to pause to make sure you're up to speed with my screen now, before we go into this part, because this is going to be introducing conditions, okay, again, which is a little bit more to it. So we're going to need to set a condition that when we press A, if bubbles is at like 0 or on the level playing field, that we are allowed jump. But if bubbles is outside of that number, so if they're already in the air, for example, we can't jump again. We can't keep flying up in the air. So we're going to go into logic. And we're going to use our if-then condition statement. So we're going to grab that one. I'm just going to bring this one out for a second. Okay. So we're saying when we press A, if bubbles is a certain position, basically, okay, on the screen, then, okay. So we want to allow bubbles position equal a number. So if we go into logic, there is a block here, if you might have seen this before, that allows us to let two things equal each other. See this one here? So we're going to grab that and we're going to pop that in instead of true, okay? Okay, stay with me. So remember, pause if you need here. So we're saying if bubbles' certain position is equal to 0, which is kind of where they begin, basically, then they're allowed to jump. Okay, so we need to find a block that's going to go in there instead of 0 that basically tells the computer what bubbles position is. So Corey, it's obviously going to be in sprites, isn't it, because it's a player.
Yeah.
And we might have a little look here and it might not jump out at you straight away. If there is a block here, if you see it's kind of that rounded shape, it's a sprite and it's a position, so that's going to be the one we need. So let's grab that one. And we're going to put that into the first area. And we're going to say if bubbles, and remember we're dealing with velocity y, so Vy, if bubbles Vy, okay, and we're going to leave 0 equals 0, okay, which is where bubbles is right now on the screen, then we can jump into the air, okay? So let's try that out now. So we're going to move along, jump. And if I click, see the way it has to come down? That works, doesn't it, Corey? Yeah. They have to do the full, they have to go up and down fully, yeah, before we can go again. Okay, exactly. Brilliant. And I can fly all the way to the end, and I've made it. Okay, we're flying, guys. So again, pause now if you need, and I'm going to, because I have that on the screen, so you can pause that, have that block, those blocks in front of you, to replicate in your own game, okay? I want to do 2 more things before Corey's going to bring you through a really cool part of the game, including your lives, okay? So you've seen there, bubbles for me made it to the end. So I made it to overlap or to come and meet the tree that I placed at the end, okay? I want to set up two pieces of code here. One is going to be that when bubbles reaches the end or the tree, that I win the game. So that's ideal. So I've raced through the end and I've got to the tree and I've won. Or I want to make sure that if you watch here, look, if I drop down this little gap, okay, I want to make sure that if I fall into my area where I'm going to be trapped, that I've lost the game. Okay, so there's 2 overlaps there. And what we're overlapping with are sections of our tile map. So the overlap block we're looking for is in our scene category because we're overlapping with our tile map, if you remember, similar to the last game we did. So I'm going to go into scene and I'm going to go down here to tiles, and we can see on sprite of kind player overlaps with this tile. That's the one we want. Let's bring that one in. Okay, so when my player, so when Bubbles overlaps with, I'm going to go into the arrow and select the tree. So when Bubbles overlaps with the tree, then remember what I want to do is that I win the game. So I'm going to go into my game and I'm going to say game over. Okay, put that in here, but not game over lose, game over win, because I've made it to the end. Okay. And then remember the other overlap I want to do is that if I overlap with the tile that I've fallen into underneath me, that my game over is going to be lose. So I'm going to basically do this again. Now, to kind of easiest thing to do here, everyone, is literally to right click on that, because I'm going to just manipulate my code here. So I'm going to right click and duplicate that. Okay. If you're using a touch screen, you can touch and hold the block for a couple of seconds and then you can click duplicate. So on sprite of kind player overlaps, this time when my player overlaps with the seaweed, which is what my new tile map had that if I fell into, then I'm going to switch to lose. So when I overlap with the tree at the end of my tile map, I win. If I fall, I lose. So let's just quickly try those 2 things before we hand over to Corey, just make sure they're working. So I'm going to go down, I'm going to just fall through this gap. Okay, game over, lost. Okay, so let's try the other way. I'm going to fly along. Corey, what do you think? Will I make it in one go?
Try it.
Sight. Yes, okay, perfect. All right, great stuff, guys. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit because that was a lot of code. Okay, maybe in a little bit more. I'm going to ask you if you need to, you can pause now so that you have all the code I've done with you on the screen, because Corey's now going to take you through another batch of code. So you want to be up to date with where we've gotten to at this point before you now carry on with Corey. So Corey, I'll hand over to you. You can bring them through the next part of this really good game.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much. Can everybody see my code?
Yeah, looking good.
Okay, perfect. So the first thing we're going to want to do is, so we have our tile map here. Mine looks a bit different from Amanda's. And what we're going to do is we want to insert something on our tile map that's going to give us like lives or scores or something. Okay, so remember in the Nemo game, we had the seaweed. So if I click into my tile map here, I can see that there's nothing really there, and we want to change that. Okay. But we change that using what's called an array. So I'm going to just pop into PowerPoint here really quickly just to kind of cover what is an array. And it's actually a very advanced coding term. All right, so we're covering a lot here. And it took me definitely a couple of episodes to understand what actually is an array. So arrays store a value at a different element, okay? And they're there so you can keep track of where your values are located within the array. So, for example, we've worked with variables, and variables can hold one piece of data, okay? Only one. But arrays, they can hold multiple pieces of data, and generally they must be of the same data type. Okay, so there we're after covering arrays and we're after covering data types, which are 2 really, really big aspects of coding. Okay, so what is a data type? You've actually covered some already. So strings is a type of data, is a data type. So alphanumeric sequence of letters and numbers, also used as a word. So we've used strings before. Remember when we said splash this across the screen or ask for a string? We done that in our last game. We also have ints or integers, okay, int for short, which are just numbers. So literally just your average numbers. But then we have floats, and floats are numbers with a decimal place. Okay, so an int might be 7, whereas a float might be 7.5. And the last thing we have kind of looked at, okay, you even done it there with Amanda when you were doing your comparison. In that little triangle block, you see true. And then when you click on the arrow, you see false. That's known as a Boolean, okay? And they're the different types of data that we have in our coding or that we have looked at anyway, okay? So what has arrays got to do with arcade gaming? You're probably wondering. So they're used to create interactive and compelling levels. Because remember, what we really want to do is we really want to build in our game and create levels, okay? And interacting with individual tiles allows for easier and more consistent setup of levels. And basically, all that means is we are going to use our tile map as a placeholder for different sprites, okay? And it's actually really, really fun. So I'm going to pop back into my game now. And I am going to go into my tile map, okay? And don't forget to pause me. I think I had to watch this done like 6 times before I actually understood what the purpose of a placeholder was. And I want to say, whenever there's going to be a red tile, I want that to be a love heart, okay? And what I'm going to do there is I'm going to go into my tiles and I am going to create one, okay? So literally just create a new tile and make it fully red. So get your bucket, get your red, and make a red tile and press done. And now, when you have your red tile, place that red tile wherever you want bubbles to get a life, okay? Or to gain a score or something. So I'm going to say I want one here, here, and here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm being generous and giving bubbles 5 lives to catch. So I'm going to press done. And now we should see the red tiles, and I do, okay? So now for the fun part, okay? Now for actually using the array. I want everyone to go into loops, and then I want everyone to scroll down until they see 4 element value of list, okay? And let's pop this into our on start menu. And what we want to do here is we actually want to get rid of list and we want to put in an array of all our red tiles, okay? So we find our tiles in scene. So let's go into scene and let's see if we can look for a word that says array. And aha, I see it. So array of all transparent tile locations. That grayed out tile is just transparent. It means like invisible. So let's take this out and let's pop it in instead of list. See the way list is highlighted in yellow? Let's take that out, okay? And now we have for element value of all R, and we want to change this to our red tile. So we want to say our value is our red tile, okay? Now, that's the hard part done. So what we want to do now is we want to actually create a sprite that looks like a heart or a life or anything like that that you would like to do. So I'm going to pop into sprites and I am going to take out the first line of code that we're super used to, which is set my sprite. And I am going to change my sprite's name to, let me see, what will I call it? Heart? What do you think, Amanda?
Yeah, heart's perfect.
Now, I'm actually not going to draw out my sprite in here. Like we usually go in here and we draw a sprite, but I'm going to create an animation of a love heart. So remember a couple of weeks ago, I got you to do a flip book in the preparation for using animations. Now is the time. So I'm going to leave that blank, and something new that we haven't done before, I'm going to actually change the kind to be something I want. So I'm going to add a new kind, and I'm going to call this life and press OK. And the reason I'm doing that is because right now the game seems pretty simple and pretty small and the code isn't too heavy. But in week 2 and 3, we start to introduce a lot of different types of sprites. So it is good to kind of give them their own kind. So I'm going to say, OK, set heart to be a blank sprite of kind life. And now time for animations. And I know some people done animations a couple of weeks ago, so well done. You were weeks ahead. So let's go down to advanced, click on advanced and extensions. So click on extensions and animation. And now our game is going to refresh and we'll see that we have the option for animations now. And remember, the code is here. So if you want to pause me to catch up, just pause me and leave that code on the screen before we go any further. Okay? So let's go into animation, and I am going to take out the first block of code, which is animate my sprite. And I'm going to bring this in, and be careful where you're putting it, all right? We need to put it underneath the red. Okay, so underneath the heart. And we know that my sprite is called heart. So change that to heart. And now I'm going to actually draw my heart to my animation. And I've been practicing this, haven't I, Amanda? So, yes. So hopefully this goes to plan. So I am going to take my pencil and my red color, and I am going to go 3 across each way, and then to the side, and then down 2. And let's see if this works. Woo! Okay, so I have kind of the outline of my heart, but now I want to shadow it, okay? So I want to like make it look like it's kind of 3D. So I'm going to bring this out, the black color for shadowing, and I'm just going to go over the outline like so.
So really what we're going to try and do, Corey, is an animation generally is kind of given the illusion of movement. So we're going to set this up so that it kind of flashes back and forth, are we?
Exactly, yeah. So this is my small heart now, and I'm actually going to do a big heart afterwards, so it looks like it's a beating heart. This is my favorite part of Arcade. So see the way I'm going to get my little white tool there? That's just to kind of make it look like it's like there's a little highlight on the heart. So once you have your image done and you're happy with it, press the plus button. And now I'm going to do my bigger heart, but I'm probably going to need a bigger space. So what if I go like 19 by 19, Amanda, what do you think?
Yeah, just a bit more width and length, and then you have enough to make it bigger. Yeah.
So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll be upset now if this doesn't go my way. I've put so much work into practicing it.
No, I have faith, Corey.
Oh, I think I need one more. There, I think it's 4 down. And okay, moment of truth. We're going to go down. Let's see if they... Woo! Okay, so again, I want to just do my outline really quickly. So I'm just going to go 1 above the red, just so it looks like a shadow. And down and keep going. And wait, and you see at the end, this actually does, well, hopefully, it looks like a beating heart. It's so cool. So I'm going to just do what I done last time and fill my heart. And I'm going to take my white pencil and I'm going to just make that there so it looks like it's folding in. And I'm going to do my highlight. And then when you're done, you can press this little play button up here and it will show you. Woohoo! Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm happy enough with that. So I'm going to press done and it's saved. Good. Now, I'm going to change my interval. So I'm going to make it faster. I'm going to go 200 milliseconds and then I'm going to loop it, which means just keep doing it over and over again. But you might find that the heart is not on the it's not on the tile where you want it to be. That's the whole reason why they're there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to say place, I think, let me see. Yeah, we'll go into scene and we're looking for something that has the word place in it because I want to place that heart on top of that tile. So we used place random before in our shark game, but we don't want that. We want this one here. Place my sprite on top of tile map. Take this out and be careful again where you're putting it. It needs to go directly under your animation. Now, remember that your red tile map is your value, okay? So you want to place your heart on top of your red tile map, which is your value. So let's take value and pop it in instead of tile. And now my heart should be on the tile map, and it is. But that red tile map is in the way. I want it to be invisible, okay? I want it to be transparent. So let's have a look back in scene. And remember to pause me at any stage, because this stuff is heavy, like this is hard. But we are going to do this section for so many different sprites. I think maybe like 5 sprites we're doing it for. So by the time you get to the 5th one, you will be flying. So let's go down and we're looking for set transparent at tile map. Okay, so set transparency at tile map. So let's take this out, and again, be careful where you put it. And it's going to go in here. And I want it to be transparent on my value. Brilliant, good idea. Everyone pause at this stage, go back. I'm telling you, the arrays are going to be so important. So definitely pause my screen there. But I think we're good. I think we're back. So now you can see that my flashing love heart is on top of the red tile, but the red tile is now transparent, so you can't see it. So it looks like the love heart is just there. And woo! I'm so happy with this. I love it. Okay, one last thing before we wrap up for today is I want to say when I overlap with a heart, I want to get a life, okay? Like I want to actually get something in return. But, okay, I made the error of using a tile map overlap because I thought, oh, the red tile, if you overlap with that, but no. Our red tile is just there to host our heart on, and our heart is actually a sprite, okay, of kind life. So what we're doing here is we're going to be overlapping using sprites, not overlapping using tile maps. So let's go into sprites and let's go down to on sprite of kind player overlaps with other sprite of kind player. And this time we're going to say if the player overlaps with the life, remember we made our own kind, well then I want to go into info, and we're used to this from our shark game. We're going to go into info and I'm going to change life by 1. Okay, that says -1, but I know that I can actually change that. So I'm going to change it to 1. And let's see what happens. I'm going to actually be on 1, I think. Yeah, look. And I can get so many. And we've ran into this problem before, okay? And remember, all we have to do is destroy that other sprite. So we can't keep getting loads of lives. So let's go into sprites and take out the destroy my sprite. And we've used this before. And let's pop it in. But I don't want to destroy heart. Okay. No. Amanda, what do you think it's going to be here?
Yeah, so that was, even when we first played around, we got confused by that, didn't we? So destroy heart will destroy the kind of most recently created thing. So we need to say destroy the other sprite that we just overlapped with.
Exactly. So we're going to take out this other sprite and we're going to pop that in instead of heart. And remember, if you want to press the plus button, you can, and you can destroy the heart. I'm going to say with heart effects. And okay, let's see if this works. Woo, done. Okay.
Brilliant.
So that is our game for the moment. Remember, this is going to continue on for a couple of weeks. So real quickly, I just want to go back. Don't forget to save your game. Sorry, there's the little save button here. So just beside where I have webinar 5, press save. And we are going to go through what did we learn today, okay? And most importantly, we covered arrays. And arrays are just a data structure that contains a group of elements, okay? Remember, we said they can hold multiple data types, and typically they hold the same kind of data type. And we discussed what data types were: strings, ints, floats, and booleans. So what is your home challenge? So your home challenge for this week is that you have to figure out, like, or find something that you collect at home. Okay, what do you collect? It can be comic books, games, coins, action figures, books, so on. Okay, anything that you collect. And then I want you to answer these questions. How big is the collection? How is it organized? Are the items sorted in any way? And how would you go about finding an item in that collection? Okay, so what you're really going to be looking for here is your array vocabulary. So let's take this for example. The array length, okay? What is the total number of items in the collection? So I'm going to say that I collect Harry Potter books, okay? The total number of items in my collection would be 7, because there's 7 books. Am I right, Amanda? In Harry Potter, yeah?
Correct, yeah, I love Harry Potter.
So that's the length of my array. how do I sort it? So how could you order the items in the collection that you have? So I'm going to use the Harry Potter books, for example. If it was me, I would have them from 1 to 7, like literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's how I would sort that, right? Then the index is a unique address or location in the collection. So for example, if I wanted to know what index the Prisoner of Azkaban is, it would be, sorry, I know I said that wrong. It would be, Amanda is so annoyed at me. It would be 3.
Yes, very good.
And finally, what type of item is being stored? So in my case, it's books. Okay. So, have we got any questions, Amanda? Did you have a chance to have a look over your Q&A?
Yeah, no, I did. So I suppose there's a couple there. Just I think saving the game is really important. So you said that at the end. So do save your game, because we are going to build on that from next week on. There is one here just about making bubbles jump more than 1 block. For the moment, we just want it to be 1, because we are going to get to that, aren't we, Corey? Yeah, no, we are going to get to that. But you can have a play around at home and play around with your VY and AY. So we set ours, I think, was it -100 and 200? Yeah. Play around with those numbers and you'll be able to get bubbles to jump further. Yeah, perfect. And that was kind of it, Corey, because I think everyone's just getting to a point where they've their game set up. So we'll get lots more questions as we move on, no doubt. Okay, brilliant. So everyone remember, any resources, including your home challenges, can be found at HomeSpace files. There is a document up there as well if you want to download it, and it's all about different data types and how you can match the right data type to whether it's a string or int or a boolean, and then your home challenge will be there as well about your collection that you have at home. So well done, everyone, and we will see you next week at the same time. Thanks for joining us. Thanks. Bye. Bye.